So you want to hold the car on the trailer, and you absolutely don't want to let that thing fall off, so you better get the right strap to hold it on there. I'm going to show you a couple of them that are the most popular ones out there and kind of compare the two so you can get an idea what you need. Let's take a look. Okay, so we have this 3-car hauler, and it has the the mesh deck on it. And so I have two straps here. Okay, the one on the left here, this guy, sort of green colored guy, these have been around for a little bit. They've been in service for about a minute, so I wanted to use straps. I didn't want to get brand new stuff. I wanted to show you stuff that's been out there so we could see how, what the wear and tear look like on them. So the one on the left, the green one, this is called a Vulcan. This is commonly sold on eBay. It's very popular. A lot of the Hotshot guys get these and use these. Now, if we look at this and compare it to the Mighty product, which is the yellow one next to it, this is from Mighty products. If we get this and we take a look at these, the end hooks down here that hook into the mesh or wherever you're going to put them at, they're about the same. I mean, you can see that the bolts that hold them on, they're both plastic lock bolts. This is probably a little bit better quality here. You can still see the blue in there, and actually the yellow one's actually a little older than this one. And you can see this is the name on this one is Vulcan. And if we flip this guy over, this is the Mighty product right here. And if we look at them, there are some differences to them. Not a ton, but there are some differences. Here's one of the differences. On the Vulcan product, basically the tire stops. That's what these rubber pieces are for. This keeps it from the strap from moving off of the tire once it's ratcheted down. These go into like the treads of the tire, these things here, and they'll hold on to it so it can't move either way. And then of course it has these sewn in pieces here in order to stop them from moving back and forth. So basically this is set up to go over the crown of the tire. When you put it on tire, go over the crown of the tire and to go in the grooves of the tire, so that when you ratchet it tight, it can't move either way, and it really can't move backwards and forth because of this would hit here and here. Well, if we look at the comparison, the Vulcan is pretty limited. So it's only going to be from here to here, right? You can see this doesn't move very far, and if you can see, this is where this one begins and this one ends. If we look at the Mighty, and they're on just the sewn in pieces on the other side, but you can see them from the back side, the stops, they have the same rubber pieces. They're about the same size. The sew-in's about the same, so all the consistency is the same, but here's the difference. And this makes a difference on larger tires. On a smaller tire, this is going to fit only across the very apex of the tire, the very top of it. Whereas this guy, notice how far down this goes. So you have a lot more movement in the rubber stopper here. Moves a lot further than these guys. See, this only goes this far, and this goes this far. What that means is when you get a larger tire, this is going to allow you to grab it in 3 separate spots, like your 9, 12, and 2 position. Whereas on a larger tire, this is not going to get the 9, 12, and 2. Heck, even the smaller tires, this won't get the 9, 12, and 2. And since these are soft ties, they're designed to go around the tire and really buckle underneath the tire if possible, but at least straight down. You want to have it touching in as far apart as you can get it so that it gets 3 nice grabs at the tire. With this one, it's going to be all in one narrow band of the tire. So this green one, the Vulcan, it's not going to have quite the usage that this larger one has. And this guy here, like I said, this is they've both been used about the same. So you can see the wear on it is about the same. Now, I want to show something to you. If we look at the size of the band here and the size of the band there, it actually looks like it's smaller, but it's not. It's just they put these lines in there to kind of make you fool you like that. Okay, so then we have, this is the intermediate hook. This is the one that's going to hook on the trailer. It goes around the wheel, and then this one hooks underneath the wheel, preferably, if not right by where the wheel comes down. Same thing here. And if we notice, both of these can travel at a pretty good distance up and down this, up and down the tie down strap. They're both about the same as far as the same size hooks on them. But now this is where I saw a huge difference, and this does make a difference in them. If we look at this end, right, and we look at the Mighty strap, it has this extra piece on the bottom end of it here that this one doesn't have. This is directly on the ratchet. Now you say, well, what difference does that make? I can tell you what difference it makes. Because when this ratchet comes down, you're right on top of your ramps. This one, you have some movement. Look, you can come way up. You got plenty of movement here. And this helps you extend further out if you need to. This one's going to stop short. So even though they're the same, the strap is the same length, it actually doesn't attach in the same length because of where this one's at. You can see this one is much longer on the back end of it. And for that reason, it actually makes this one a better strap. Now, let me show you something else too. On the Vulcan, they both have a nice kind of heavy, thick plastic handle, as you can see. But there's a big difference on these handles. And they probably buy the components from the same places, right? It was all made in India or China or wherever it's made from, Vietnam, who knows. The difference is in the build of it, in the design of it, right? So if you look at this, see how this is cut out like this? It just goes around like this. Well, once that strap, and I left this on there purposely, once you start getting a little bit of strap in there, right, to prevent you from having so much tie off, once you start getting a little bit of strap in here, this begins to hit the strap. Let me show you something in the Mighty. See how that's cut out? It's cut out square so it doesn't grab, it doesn't try to stop it. Once this hits that, it won't lock, because the lock right here on the side, as you can see, has to lock inside of here. And once it hits that, once this gets too big, it hits that and it won't allow it to reel anymore on there, and because it won't lock. The Mighty doesn't have that problem. You can go pretty much all the way to that first stop link right there into here before it ever gets even close to touching here where it won't lock. And that's one significant thing. I'm going to point out another one. When you go to put your hands on there, if you got a normal size hand, you slip it under here, you pull it up, and you ratchet it back, right? That's how it works. You pull it up and it ratchets back. But look at the Vulcan. Look at the difference. See my hands? Now, if I've got gloves on, right? If I've got gloves on, I got no problem right here. I got nothing, right? No problem, goes right in. If I got gloves on here, I'm gonna be in a little bit of trouble, aren't I? Because my hand's gonna go through, it's thicker. So as you can see, the distance of here and there is remarkably different. You can see it. I mean, this is way bigger. So you can get your hand in there a lot more your hand. You can get all the fingers in there you need with glove on. This one here, you can barely get 2 fingers in it. You're not getting 3. It's just not gonna happen. And you're not getting them in there with a glove on there. So that's a big difference. I mean, when you start to ratchet this one versus when you ratchet that one, that's a big difference. So I guess we could conclude here that they're all not made the same. They may look a lot alike, but they're definitely not made the same. Another point out difference. If you notice on the side of this guy, this Vulcan, look at the side of here. Now it looks like the same as the other one, right? But look at this part right here. And this is a bendable part right here. This is where the rubber hits the road, let's just call it, right? Look how thin that is. And then let's look over here at the Mighty product. Look how much beefier this is. This is way bigger. You can see it when I compare them. And because of that, this is a lot less likely to break. So when you go to ratchet down something and you want to make sure it doesn't move and you need that final little extra pull on it, that's not going to quit. That just might. And I want to show you another thing too. So when you go to ratchet these up and you start to put a lot of weight on this, you start to put a lot of torque on it, and you go to pull on it, I want you to look at the size of the drum on this, and then look at the size of the drum on that. This is much smaller than this one. This is really small compared to this one here. And why does that matter? It's like a bicycle, right? The larger the sprocket is, the larger the drum is, the more leverage you have against the strap, the less leverage you have against this strap. So when this one starts to get a little tough, not only are you having a hard time getting your fingers in there, but it's also not going to want to ratchet it like it will on this one because of that. So it's really going to come into play. This part that's so thin down here is going to come into play, because if you start really trying to muscle this thing through because you just don't have the leverage in the drum, and you start having to really pull on it hard, you could bend it. This is usually what happens when these things bend right in here. This one here, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So one other thing now, this is the last thing I want to kind of point out, the differences in them. If you notice, and this may not sound like a lot, but Vulcan actually puts a bend right here. See that bend? That bend doesn't exist here. That bend over here, the actual bend of it, is going to allow this thing to want to crush. This thing already has a bend. It wants to go to one side or the other. I had one of these one time that when I was pulling on it, it actually, these Vulcans, and it actually bent right here at this bend. It actually pulled over. Whereas when you have this one, it doesn't have that. It's not completely flat, but it's darn near flat. If you look at it, it's darn near flat. And there's no bend point in there is the most important part about it. So overall, in ranking these, if I'm picking, which I do pick, I abandoned those, and I went to the Mighty product. And I'm telling you now, the Mighty product, these tire hold downs, these systems are way better They're way better. So if you've got to make a choice, I would buy the Mighty. And believe it or not, they're really not much more expensive, if at all. I think the Mighty might be a little bit cheaper now. If you go over to their website, to mighty.com, and check them out, you'll see what I'm talking about. These are better. You get these on Amazon, but you get these on mighty.com. So check it out.